I'm pleased to have Eddie Chumney with me here today, and we're going to do another spontaneous interview that you've gotten used to by now. Eddie Chumney is here over the weekend to give us 6 lessons, and then you're going to go on to Norway.
Yeah.
And on to
Germany and Poland.
Oh, and Poland. Okay, I missed that. So you're hitting 4 countries.
Yes.
So you'll be gone for about a month.
Yes.
Wow. I had missed Poland. I should know that.
And we're teaching the Hebrew roots of Christianity in these countries.
Yeah. And this is your first time in Sweden, right?
Yes.
And Scandinavia as a whole?
Yes.
Have you not even landed here and left, or no?
No. I've been to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
But not Norway and Sweden, Finland, no.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So anyhow, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself? Just a couple of minutes.
All right. Well, I'm Eddie Chumney, and I'm the director and founder of Hebraic Heritage Ministries International. Mm-hmm. And Hebraic Heritage Ministries' purpose is to teach the Hebraic roots of Christianity to believers in Yeshua, or Jesus, all over the world. Mm-hmm. And in order to help to do this, I've written 3 books. They are The 7 Festivals of the Messiah, mm-hmm. Who is the Bride of Christ, and Restoring the 2 Houses of Israel. And I've been in full-time ministry since 2002. And I have my own half-hour weekly television program on God's Learning Channel, which is a satellite Christian television network, mm-hmm. that is based in the United States. But if you have the correct satellite dish, you can get it all over the world, or you can watch.
So here in Sweden as well, if we just have to tune in. Dish the right direction.
Yeah, or you can watch live streaming over the internet.
Okay.
And many of the Hebrew roots teachers have their own half-hour program on God's Learning Channel.
Okay, on this particular channel.
Yeah, but in addition to that, I've been speaking at national and international conferences since 1997. Mm-hmm. So as a result, I've spoken in about 40 states in the United States, most of the provinces of Canada, mm-hmm. 3 times to South Africa, once to Australia, once to New Zealand, mm-hmm. and this is my 3rd trip to Europe. And in Europe, I've spoken in Ireland and Belgium, in the Netherlands, in Switzerland, France, Germany, Poland, and now we are here in Sweden and Norway. So the message is going out all over the world, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, we too. So now this coming to Europe, it's actually a fairly recent thing, right?
Yeah.
Was it last year or the
my
year
first
before?
trip was in summer of 2009.
Yeah,
so I came last summer, and so this is my 3rd trip to teach Hebrew roots.
This is your 3rd trip since last summer then?
Well, since summer 2009.
I'm sorry, 2009.
Was the first one.
In the past.
Yes.
It's been almost 2 years.
Yes.
Now you said something interesting. I think it was yesterday, right after you came.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about the Hebrew Roots movement. Mm-hmm. In Sweden, this is still a fairly, I shouldn't say a new thing. It's been happening for a few years, but not everybody's heard about it. Mm-hmm. But you told me something very interesting. When you go to different cities, different states in the United States, and different countries, mm-hmm. It's a lot of times small groups. Mm-hmm. You said you talk to 20, 30, 40, 50 people and 100 people a lot of times. If I understood you right, that's a crowd.
Yeah. When I am personally speaking mm-hmm. to a fellowship group or congregation, on average, I'm speaking to 20 to 50 people.
Hmm. So would it be fair to say that this Hebrew Roots movement, it's a grassroots movement?
It is.
So you how many times, out of 10 times, how many times are you in an actual church?
0.
Really? 0?
I have never given a Hebrew roots message in an American English-speaking church.
Yes.
I've spoken several times in Russian-speaking churches in the United States, mm-hmm. But not in an American church. Because in America, There's churches on every street corner.
Yeah.
There's churches in every town. And so people who are attending churches in America, mainline churches or evangelical churches, they're not even going to know that Eddie Chumney or Bill Cloud or Mark Biltz or Rico Cortez or Brad Scott or Monty Judah exists. But within the Hebrew Roots movement, all of us are well known and we are regarded as national teachers. And we get the message out through television, through the internet, and those who organize conferences and ask us to come and speak in their local fellowship groups.
Yeah. But it's common that we got the same setup as in Sweden, that a few families get together and invite you to come.
That's normal all over the world.
Yeah.
That's the situation in the United States, and that's the situation in South Africa or Australia or New Zealand as well. We have a small group of people in a local community, but I would say in the United States, every 50 miles there's a fellowship group. But it's a fellowship group of 10 to 25 people.
Yeah.
But every 50 miles.
Now, what do you think, what's God's plan behind this? I mean, I have some ideas, but I'd rather hear what you say. I mean, why don't we see any mega churches, Hebrew Roots mega churches?
The answer is because these are the days of Elijah.
And that's what you're going to be talking about Friday night, right?
Yeah, in Matthew chapter 17, Yeshua was asked a question, and the question is, verse 10, his disciples asked him, "Why then say the scribes that Elijah must first come?" Which means precede the coming of the Messiah. And Yeshua answered and said, "Elijah truly shall first come," and this is what Elijah is going to do, restore all things. Well, you can't restore something unless it originally was, and then something happened to it and it got in a deteriorated state, and then you're bringing back to how it originally was. So in our Bible, how were things originally? The people who believed in the God of Israel followed the Torah, but yet the nation of Israel departed from the Torah, as we read in the Old Testament, or we say the Tanakh, the Hebrew Scriptures. And then in the history of Christianity, the disciples of Yeshua were taught by him, and he taught them how to follow the Torah. And the early believers in Yeshua followed the Torah, but there began to be a separation from that, and ultimately that separation was complete with Constantine in 321, when he declared the Roman Empire that the state religion of the Roman Empire would be Christianity. And in doing so, Constantine brought the religious leaders together who were non-Jewish, and they decided, we are going to worship on Sunday rather than Shabbat, Saturday, and we're going to celebrate Easter instead of Passover. And so Christianity, as many of us understand it, we don't realize that this is Constantine Christianity. Christianity the last 1700 years.
Ouch. Some people might get upset over that.
Well, the truth is the truth. And what truly Hebrew roots, as I teach it, as I advocate it, is we want to have first century faith. The faith of the disciples and the faith of the first century. And most people don't realize there's a difference between first century faith and fourth century faith, which is the faith that is brought down to us. And so, therefore, there's been a departure from the first century. So that which was original was departed from, and there needs to be a restoration back to how it originally was, and that is the ministry task of Elijah. And we're told about Elijah's ministry, or his task, in Malachi in chapter 4, verses 4 through 6, where in Malachi 4:4 it says, "Remember the Torah of Moses my servant." Verse 5, "Behold, I send you Elijah the prophet before the coming and great and dreadful day of the Lord." So before Elijah comes, his message is, remember the Torah of Moses. And so the other reason for now is because as a part of the message of restoration, which is the message of Elijah, and why is it that this isn't, mainstream? Why is it grassroots? Is because in Isaiah chapter 40, when we're told about Elijah's message, it says in verse 3, "The voice of him that cries in the wilderness." Not the voice of him that cries in Jerusalem.
No.
Not the voice of him that cries on Main Street. Not the voice of him that cries in the megachurch.
So are we meeting in the wilderness?
We're meeting in the wilderness.
That's where his people are meeting in some way.
Yeah, and the wilderness is outside of the mainstream.
Yeah. And then these little groups that are popping up everywhere, these clusters of Messianic believers in different cities, different countries, it's all part of this restoration.
It's part of this restoration. And the message of Elijah not only is in Malachi 4:4, remember the Torah of Moses, but here in Isaiah 40 verse 3 it says, prepare the way of the Lord. In other words, it's Elijah is preparing the people for Messiah's coming. Now, when Yeshua returns at his second coming, what's he doing? He's coming for a bride and to marry a bride.
So the bride, in a sense, is preparing herself.
Elijah's task is to prepare the bride for the coming of the bridegroom and the wedding. And so part of the bride's preparation is to be a bride that is pleasing to our bridegroom. And so the bride is going to know her bridegroom. And so who's the bridegroom? The bridegroom is Yeshua. And in Matthew, in chapter 7, and verses 21 through 23, Yeshua gives a rebuke to a group of people. And this is, we're going to look at the rebuke and the meaning of the rebuke. It says, not everyone that says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom, but he that does the will of my Father. So first of all, doing the will of his Father. So what is the will of the Father to begin with? Well, the will of his Father is defined in Psalm in chapter 40, and sometimes in a non-English published Bible, the verses in Psalms aren't the same, but it says in Psalm chapter 40 and verses 7 and 8, "Then said I, Lo, I come, in the volume of the book it is written of me, I delight to do your will, O my God." I delight to do your will. Your Torah is within my heart.
So there's a connection.
His will is defined as the Torah is within my heart. So not everyone that says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom, but he that does the will of his Father, which means the Torah is written upon your heart. And by the way, what is the new covenant? The new covenant is, I will write my Torah in their inward parts. And then it says, many will come to me in that day, saying, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out devils, done many wonderful works? These are things that believers in Yeshua do that has the power of the Holy Spirit operating and manifesting through them. And then it says in verse 23, then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Now if you take that back Hebraically, the word know in Hebrew is yada, which means to know intimately. And that word yada, which means know, is found in Genesis chapter 4 verse 1, where it says, and Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived. Same word. I never knew you. So he's saying, I don't know you intimately.
They're lacking the intimate relationship.
The intimate relationship. And here's how he's going to define what the intimate relationship is. Depart from me, you that work iniquity. Now the King James translated this verse and smoothed it over. The word iniquity is the Greek word anomia, which means without the Torah. And that Greek word anomia, which is translated as iniquity here, is translated as transgressing the Torah in 1 John in chapter 3 and verse 4. And in 1 John chapter 3 and verse 4 it says, whosoever commits sin transgresses the Torah, for sin is transgression of the Torah. Sin is anomia.
And also that seems like that would connect well with, it talks about the spirit of Antichrist and Antichrist being lawless.
Yeah, lawless is anti-Torah.
Okay, so there's a connection there as well.
Absolutely.
So
that means if Antichrist is lawless without the Torah, then that means the Messiah is with the Torah.
Yeah.
And those who follow him are with the Torah. You see?
So we need to be careful before we cut the Old Testament like some have.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Yeah. Now, you also mentioned something interesting the other day. You keep, I don't mean to totally change the subject here, but you keep a close watch on the Middle East, on Israel, and on the Palestinian situation. And as a matter of fact, you spend so much time doing this, you actually put something out, was it twice a week or once a week on your blog?
When I'm home and I'm in front of my computer, morning, afternoon, and evening, I check the news.
Yes.
And I'm checking it as it relates to specific things that is related to Bible prophecy of the end of days, which I call Hebraic Bible prophecy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And basically, the big picture of the end of days is it is prophesied that the nations will divide the land of Israel. That's Joel chapter 3 and verse 2.
Yeah, I was hoping you would mention that.
And the city of Jerusalem, Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 2. In the period of time that Joel 1:15 and Joel chapter 2 verses 1 and 2 calls the day of the Lord, which Zechariah 14 verse 1 says the day of the Lord. So in the day of the Lord, which is end of days, the nations are prophesied to divide the land of Israel and the city of Jerusalem. Now, how is that to be fulfilled in practical reality? It's the creation of a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital.
And this is something that we see right in front of our eyes right now.
Yeah, the international community, the European Union, the United States, the United Nations, Russia, that's the quartet, they have stated a goal to have a Palestinian state established this September of 2011.
So what you're saying is, when we see this happen, you're saying this is the day of the Lord, and maybe even what we are used to hearing called the tribulation has come upon us.
The creation of a Palestinian state, the dividing of the land of Israel and the city of Jerusalem, is a tribulation event.
And if the United Nations get their will through, we'll have something maybe even this September?
Well,
or at least that is their wish.
It appears now because Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't seem to be willing, based upon the current environment, to sign an agreement to have a Palestinian state based upon 67 borders and to divide Jerusalem. Based upon the current political environment, he doesn't feel comfortable with doing that.
No, I wouldn't either.
He's giving every indication of that. Nevertheless, the nations are very eager to see the creation of a Palestinian state right away. So it looks like there is going to be, or there is, a clash between Israel and the nations. And I just read right before we came over here today.
Oh, really?
That increasingly Israel is being isolated from the nations. The nations are isolating Israel.
And even your home country, that's been a supporter for many, many years, you're seeing signs now that you're starting to pull out. Not you as in you, but the
United States of America
are starting to pull away from giving their support to Israel.
Yes.
It seems very clear.
The United States has declared with the European Union, with the United Nations, that they are now calling the settlements illegal. And before, when you referred to the settlements, at least publicly, they were making reference to the West Bank, or biblically it's called Judea and Samaria. But here in the last year, when they're using the term settlements, they're also, the international community, the United States, the European Union, are referring to East Jerusalem as well. And Israel's saying, hey, wait a second, Jerusalem is not a settlement.
So they just kind of threw that in there. They try to sneak that in the negotiations, right?
Yeah, and right now, as we are talking, the Palestinians are trying to get a UN resolution passed to declare the settlements as illegal, and building in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem as illegal. And the United States is saying that they are in principle, they agree that the settlements are illegal. Right now, as we're speaking, they're saying they don't want that to be stated as a UN Security Council resolution. They are willing to make that statement as a draft paper. So if their position...
But it seems like just
the position's still the same.
Yeah,
it's a political game. Because I'll support a draft paper, which is not a legal document, but a Security Council resolution is international law. So it's almost like the United States is telling Israel, this is our position, and we want you to willingly, or actually unwillingly, agree to a Palestinian state based upon 67 borders under the threat that we're going to do this as an international community if you don't. And so this is the choice that really Netanyahu has to make. Is he going to stand for a united Jerusalem and cause Israel to be isolated from the international community, which is in effect the same as having sanctions put upon it when you're isolated from the international community? Does he want to bring that upon the nation of Israel, or is the pressure going to cause him to say, yes, let me sign on the borders of a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital?
He did something fairly recently to sort of protect himself from being bullied into signing such an agreement. What was that?
He did. In December, the Israeli government passed that in order for the nation of Israel to divide Jerusalem, which is the only way a Palestinian state is going to be agreed to by the Palestinians and the international community, that it is going to require a national vote, and the Israeli people agree to divide Jerusalem.
So in one way he's slowed down the process. He can't sign this off just by himself. He needs to have the entire people of Israel with him.
He put a roadblock in the process.
And it was a pretty smart move from his standpoint. So, but
that is a tribulation event. That is an event of the day of the Lord. And so it appears if the nations are going to get their way, we will see an event that is a tribulation event this year, if the desire of the nations come to pass. But that results in the judgment of the nations, because it says after Zechariah 14 verse 2, the nations divide Jerusalem. The next verse says the Lord will go forth and fight against the nations, as in he fought in the day of battle. So the dividing of the land brings judgment.
This is not what people refer to as Armageddon. We're taught that's a later struggle.
Armageddon, people think of as an individual event. Judgment of the nations is a process.
So you don't really see a specific battle of Armageddon in a classical
Yeah, the book of Revelation speaks of it.
Yeah.
So actually, if you were going to look at the book of Revelation, for example, in Revelation chapter 6, there's the opening of seals, and then we have judgments happening in Revelation chapter 8 and 9 and 10, etc. So these judgments that are coming upon the earth,
they all lead up to that.
All these judgments is the judgment of the nations. So when we're talking about the judgment of the nations, we're talking about Revelation chapter 6. Revelation 7 is 144,000. Revelation chapter 8.
That's
Revelation
really
chapter
exciting and to some maybe a little scary at the same time. But so in what you can see, the way you translate the Word of God, this will be a trigger or a sign. Maybe not a trigger of the tribulation, but it will be a sign that now we're in the beginning phase.
Yes. And so we have the judgment of the nations to confirm it. And the judgment of the nations is war between the nations, and I believe that war will break out in the Middle East. A war that will break out in the Middle East that will cause instability in the world. That there will be other places where war will break out because of the instability in the Middle East.
The whole world seems unstable right now. It's just everything is shaky. Every countries after countries are having uprising. And
the other thing that will contribute to war is the perceived instability of the United States.
Yes.
That the United States is weak, so therefore the countries are going to feel insecure. So maybe India and Pakistan will feel insecure.
Yeah.
Maybe North and South Korea will feel insecure.
So the United States losing its influence will trigger, it'll have a domino effect.
Have a domino effect of creating wars in areas that has been stable.
Yeah.
And what also is associated with the judgment of the nations is worldwide economic collapse. And if you have war in the Middle East, where you have the shutting down of the Suez Canal, or you have the shutting down of the oil that comes through the Gulf, then that's going to raise oil prices and create worldwide instability, and it will lead to economic collapse. And so that is going to be, biblically speaking, judgment for dividing the land. So I'm on a daily and a weekly basis, I'm following these events, and I give approximately an hour update every week.
Every week on your website.
Yeah, on the current situation. What is the situation with the peace process? What's the situation with prospects for war in the Middle East? And what is the status of the global economy and the U.S. economy? And those are the areas I particularly focus on.
And what's the website address?
Well, I have a blog where the articles that I'm reading and sharing.
What's the easiest way to remember if we were to
It's
go on this?
watchmanofzion.com.
Okay, well that's fair enough. Watchmanofzion.com.
Watchman.
Yeah, Watchman.
Not of Zion.com.
Okay,
so it's a blog that only contains the links to the articles that I'm reading for the past week, a little paragraph of the summary of what the links are about,
and then some kind of MP3 file.
And an MP3 file where you can actually listen to the update, which is approximately about an hour.
Very good. Well, we'll need to wrap up. We could sit here and talk all night. I'm obviously interested in these things, and I think many with me are. Just before we finish here, some might feel like this is a grim message that you're coming with, or this is sad or depressing message. What's the good part in all this?
The good part of all of this is knowing why Yeshua died on the cross and why he's coming again. And in John chapter 10 verses 16 and 17, Yeshua, in speaking to the Pharisees, said that he's dying at his first coming to take two sheepfolds that are going to become one, of which he's going to be the good shepherd over. And that's repeated in John chapter 11 verses 49 through 52.
And I'm sorry, this is also something that you're going to teach on Saturday, right? Or Friday night.
Exactly.
Yes, okay.
Is that It says in John 11:49 through 52 that he's dying to take two nations who are the children of God, scattered abroad, and make them one. So that's why he dies at his first coming. He's going to complete the task at his second coming. And so we're going to explain how that relates and pertains to every believer in Yeshua as the Messiah. How his second coming is related to his first coming, and his first coming he did so for the purpose of taking two sheepfolds and making one, two nations becoming one, and that is the 12 tribes of Israel, and uniting and making them one. The uniting of the 12 tribes of Israel into bringing them back from exile, so that the nations are no longer ruling over them, is the task and role and function of the Messiah. And that is not widely known in the church, but it is a teaching of the Bible. And actually, if you would ask an Orthodox Jew, is Yeshua the Messiah, they would say no. And if you really get to the core of why they say he's not the Messiah, one of the major reasons is they'll say he did not unite the 12 tribes of Israel. The Messiah unites the 12 tribes of Israel. And so the result of these things happening is the Messiah, Yeshua, is going to gather and unite the 12 tribes of Israel in judging the nations, and who he's gathering, he's coming for a bride. And you will see in the Old Testament that the gathering and uniting the 12 tribes of Israel is likened to the joy of a marriage. So he's coming, setting his feet down on the Mount of Olives, and he's going to set up his kingdom. And so when Yeshua said, when you see trouble around us happening, look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. So actually, for the unbeliever, it should be depressing. But for the believer, there's great hope.
It should be a joyous occasion.
Yes.
Well, let's finish on that positive note. Just one final quick question. What is your impression of Sweden so far? I mean, you've only been here 2 days, and I showed you around Stockholm a little bit today.
Well, obviously, my first impression since I'm coming here in February is the weather.
The weather, yeah. And be honest now. You can tell me you hate Sweden so far. I wouldn't be...
No, actually, as I shared with you when we were together, the weather here is just like it is where I live in the United States in Ohio.
Yeah, okay, so you feel right at home.
Yeah, I feel right at home.
Yeah. But you wouldn't mind if it was a little warmer then?
Well, I don't mind if it's a little warmer back where I live as well. But means, unfortunately, in January and February, it's colder and it's snowier, and that's what we got to live with.
You feel right at home?
I feel right at home.
Well, I would hope you would. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.